Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible, epic, historical journeys of all time, the public invitation to Islam. It's a story pulled right from the foundations of the Prophet's biography, and honestly, it is just packed with these profound lessons of courage, patience, and absolutely clear, undeniable guidance. We're going to see exactly how a message that started out in total, utter secrecy eventually grew to illuminate the entire world.
So I want you to just imagine for a second standing completely alone. I mean, your family, your friends, your entire society, they are all stacked against you. They're mocking you, and they're actively trying to silence you. Well, today, we'll see exactly how that kind of extraordinary, unwavering resilience literally shaped history. Because this isn't just a history lesson. It's basically a masterclass in holding on to your values when absolutely everything around you is trying to pull you away.
We can actually map out the sheer endurance of these early believers right here. It shifts from 3 very delicate years of secret preaching, moving into the command to warn kindred, then that bold public call at Safa, the migration to Abyssinia, and culminating in a 3-year boycott that tested the absolute limits of human endurance. Let's walk through exactly how this all unfolded.
Okay, so for 3 years, the message grew really quietly. It was just passed from trusted friend to trusted friend. But then, everything changed. The command came down through the angel Gabriel, delivering the verses of Surah Al-Jahr, and the instruction was crystal clear. And warn your closest kindred. The time for keeping things secret, that was officially over.
Following this command, the Prophet ascended Mount Safa. He called out to the gathered people of Mecca. But you really have to notice the brilliant strategy here. He first asked them, "If I were to tell you that an enemy cavalry was advancing behind this mountain, would you believe me?" And they all agreed. They called him the truthful and trustworthy. It's just a brilliant way of establishing absolute trust before delivering his monumental call to worship one God.
But you know, the truth is heavy, and the immediate backlash was fierce. The very people who had literally just praised his honesty immediately turned on him. His own uncle, Abu-Lahab, actually shouted this cruel mockery at him. "May you be ruined! Is this why you gathered us?" That heartbreaking moment, that marked the official beginning of intense, very public opposition. Even with all that mockery, the number of believers slowly grew. And because the core foundation of Meccan society, which was idol worship, was being directly challenged, the leaders started panicking. Feeling their grip on power slipping, an angry delegation of the most powerful Quraysh leaders marched right up to the Prophet's protecting uncle, Abu-Talib. They demanded he put an immediate stop to his nephew's clear, disruptive guidance. Put yourself in Abu-Talib's shoes for a second. The burden on him must have been immense. He loved his nephew deeply, but the pressure from the entire city was mounting. So he gently warned the Prophet of the danger, essentially asking him to ease up on his mission just to spare them both. But what followed was honestly one of the most legendary displays of unwavering faith in all of human history.
He replied with this absolute, unbreakable conviction. "Oh, my uncle, by Allah, if they put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left on condition that I abandon this course, I would not abandon it." Wow. It just goes to show that absolutely no worldly bribes, not all the wealth and power of Mecca, and no severe threats of death could ever derail this divine mission.
So seeing that he couldn't be bought or persuaded, the Quraysh quickly escalated. They went from verbal mockery straight to physical violence. They launched massive smear campaigns, spreading lies that he was a madman or a poet or a sorcerer. And they even resorted to these petty, cruel tactics, like deliberately placing sharp thorns right in his path while he walked and prayed.
But this brutal reality, it hit the most vulnerable believers the hardest. Just look at the tragic plight of those who didn't have tribal protection, like Bilal. He was literally dragged out into the scorching midday desert by his master, Umayyah ibn Khalaf, and crushed under a massive burning rock. He was told he would stay there until he abandoned his faith.
When you look at Bilal's incredible endurance, you really have to pause and ask yourself a vital question. How do you hold on to your faith when the cost is physical agony? Seriously, how deep must someone's connection to God be to withstand that kind of unbearable torment? Breathing out just a single, powerful word, Ahad, Ahad, meaning one God. Now, the ultimate test of patience was borne by the family of Yasir. As they faced this brutal, relentless torture, the Prophet would actually pass by and promise them paradise for their patience. Tragically but heroically, the mother of this family, Sumayya, became the very first martyr in all of Islam. She gave her life rather than renouncing the truth.
To protect his followers from this escalating nightmare, the Prophet directed a vulnerable group to leave their homeland altogether. He guided them across the Red Sea to Abyssinia, telling them they would find a land of truth, led by a Christian ruler who oppresses absolutely no one.
And the prophet's guidance was completely spot on. The Quraysh actually sent envoys with lavish bribes to try and drag the Muslims back to Mecca. But King Negus of Abyssinia insisted on hearing the Muslims out first. After listening to Ja'far recite the beautiful verses of Surah Maryam, the king literally wept. He heroically rejected the bribes and provided the Muslims with safe, peaceful refuge.
You really have to notice the stark contrast here. On one side, you have Mecca, completely ruled by hostility, arrogance, violence, and bribery. And on the other side, Abyssinia, defined by profound justice, open-mindedness, safety, and protection. It perfectly shows how truth recognizes truth, no matter the geographical borders.
Meanwhile, back in Mecca, the faith was unexpectedly finding some powerful new champions. The Prophet's uncle, Hamza, who was a fierce warrior, was absolutely enraged when he heard how Abu-Jahl had verbally and physically abused his nephew. So he marched straight to the Kaaba, struck Abu-Jahl, and publicly declared his Islam right then and there in this moment of fierce, protective courage.
And shortly after that, a massive turning point happened. Umar ibn Al-Khattab, a man who had actually set out with his sword intending to harm the Prophet, was completely transformed. Upon hearing the rhythmic, powerful words of the Quran in his sister's home, his heart just softened. His conversion was a game changer. It gave the Muslims the unprecedented strength they needed to finally pray publicly at the Kaaba.
Terrified by the growing strength of the Muslims, the Quraysh enforced a desperate, brutal tactic. They initiated a 3-year social and economic boycott against the Prophet's entire clan, and they hung this unjust pact right inside the Kaaba. No one could trade with them, marry them, or even sell them food. For 3 grueling years, the believers were trapped in a mountain valley. They were starving, sometimes literally forced to eat tree leaves, yet they endured it all with incredible patience. Finally, the injustice ended when a few fair-minded Meccans decided to tear down the pact. But get this, when they went to retrieve it, they discovered the document hadn't just been torn down, it had been eaten entirely by termites. It was totally destroyed, except for the name of Allah. This entire historical epic serves as the ultimate, living definition of sabr, which we usually just translate as patience, but as we've seen, it isn't just about passively waiting around. Not at all. Sabr is about actively holding on to your faith, your values, and your connection to clear divine guidance during the absolute hardest trials imaginable.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why this history matters so much to us today. Because sure, the challenges might look a little different now, but the need for resilience, that is exactly the same. This is especially true for families striving to raise their children with these exact same values in fast-paced, modern, predominantly non-Arabic-speaking environments, where, let's face it, distractions are everywhere.
Just as the early Muslims relied on sabr and the sheer power of the Quran to anchor them, Muslim Academy today continues that exact legacy. They offer patient, expert, one-on-one guidance to help your children overcome modern distractions. By making proper tajweed, Arabic, and Islamic manners accessible and engaging, they're helping kids build an unbreakable, lifelong connection to their faith.
Because at the end of the day, the story of the public dawah isn't just some history lesson tucked away in a textbook somewhere. It is the ultimate blueprint. It's a literal guide for creating a meaningful, resilient Muslim identity filled with heroic virtues, profound mercy, and justice. An identity that continues to bring light to the world. So, I really want to leave you with this deeply important thought to reflect on as we wrap up this explainer. Looking at the unbelievable sacrifices made in the past, how are you actively ensuring that this beautiful legacy of patience, resilience, and clear Quranic guidance lives on in the next generation of your own family today? Thank you so much for exploring this remarkable journey with me.